I'm Aditi Chandra, and I'm Assistant Professor of Art and Architectural History in the Global Art Studies program at UC Merced. My area of research is studying the art and architecture of South Asia and the Islamic world. Another area of my research is looking at the role of European and Indian women in garden design in British India. And yet another area I am interested in studying is a 16th century recipe book that is written in Persian, and it's from central India. So I absolutely love archival research because it gives me the opportunity to sit quietly in a quiet library-like space and just pore over these old documents and letters and, peer into people's lives like a voyeur and, be a detective and find interesting anecdotes and stories and be surrounded by dust and crinkly paper, but it's all about joy and kind of being a detective and time traveling. So one anecdote I can share about archival research is that one needs to build relationships with the people who give us access to these spaces. So I spent hours drinking overly sweetened cups of tea, at least in India and Pakistan, and chatting with these local officials in order to develop a connection with them and develop communication with them. So that I could have easier access to these archives. Over time, when I went to Lahore, Pakistan, and as an Indian citizen, I was a bit concerned, given that the two countries, India and Pakistan, are political enemies. But when I was there, all the people that I met, people at the archives, the people who brought me files, all they really wanted to know was they wanted to learn about me, where I came from, where my family was living, and my life in India. And they were told me about their lives in India, about their grandparents' lives in India, and how much they missed it before the partition. So this experience really taught me that to develop human connections with people that the news media tells us are our enemies. So monuments are fascinating because even though they may have been built in the 12th century or say the 16th century, they continue to have meaning to us today. There are various changes and transformations that happen to monuments over the centuries, like landscaping design or museum building or selling of postcards. And different communities and nations attach different meanings to a particular monument. It does not mean the same thing. So for example, a nation may look at a monument and use it to build its identity as a cohesive nation, but a community within that nation may look at it and say that that monument does not belong to me. An example, a current example for us would be, the discussions that are going around about Confederate statues in the US South. The main aim of my teaching is to create global citizens, that is, people with wisdom, courage, and compassion to really develop an imaginative empathy for cultures from across the world through a deep study of history and the visual art form. So in my courses, students can expect to learn about figural art from the Islamic world, the power of women from Islamic cultures from the 7th century to the present time, and to also understand how architecture and public space have shaped identity, created power, and also resistance to that power over the centuries.